Brad Hall, the Vice President of External Affairs at Appalachian Power, and Michael Clemens, President of GigaBeam Networks, and talk about their partnership that they've done together. And then we're going to hear from Dominion Energy. And then at the end of all that, we'll take questions. So Brad and Michael, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks, folks. Good afternoon. Thanks for having us today. Really like to thank Rob and the team there at the Utilities Technology Council for inviting us to be part of this, what we think is a very important panel. And by the attendance, we think a lot of folks think it is as well. I hope you appreciate the picture that we've got up there. It's a beautiful picture of the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia. And I assure you, it's better for you to look at that than me and my quarantine hair and quarantine beard. We'll give you that beautiful picture, but at the same time that these mountains are beautiful, they also create one of the most difficult challenges in solving the digital divide. The mountains that you see, they are a significant challenge for fixed wireless solutions and for hanging fiber. The beautiful trees that you see are a challenge when storms cause those trees to fall on those lines and we have to repair them. And then the narrow valleys and beautiful rural landscapes lack the dense population that really makes a project like this economically feasible. So as though this area is beautiful and we love being here and being a part of this area, this beauty creates challenges for us in solving the digital divide. If you would go to slide 2. Thank you. So just real briefly, just want to let you know who Appalachian Power Company is. We are a power company. We're a subsidiary of American Electric Power. We provide power services in Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. We've got about 1 million customers and 3,000 employees, and you can see the map there of the states where we serve. Those red boxes on the screen represent the various generation units across the territory, which total about 8,700 megawatts of power, including hydro, natural gas, coal, and some solar. We have about $3 billion in annual revenues and a net income of $311 million. And as I said, we're a subsidiary of American Electric Power. We have 7 operating companies across 11 states and assets in well over 30 states. And that's just a little bit about who we are. If you go to the next slide, Michael's going to introduce himself and a little bit about GigaBeam.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the company and our project. As you can see on this slide, a little bit of background on the company. I founded it in 1997 as an IT company. We mainly did network support for local businesses, computer repair, those kind of things initially. And soon, right after I founded it, I got into to being an ISP with dial-up, as I'm sure all of you can remember the wonderful days of 56K internet access. From there, we kind of grew the company as technology changed, adapting mainly into fixed wireless to provide broadband to the area. Starting in 2004, building our first tower. At that point, we were doing 1 to 3 meg service, which was considered broadband at that time. And it's expanded since then as technology has improved. And here in really the past couple of years with this project and a couple more, we've actually gotten into building hybrid networks. In the area we're at, just like they were shown in the picture, and how the congressman talked, it's very rural, very mountainous, and very tough to deploy fiber. And really, you can't just come out on it economically. So a hybrid approach really makes the most sense, and that's what we're focused on now, is trying to deploy fiber and wireless where we can. Beyond that, we're looking to expand from the area that we cover now. You can see in the map there, those are the counties we currently have service in, with Grayson being marked at the bottom. That's where this project will be. But we're looking to expand from that in the whole area, in mainly West Virginia and Virginia. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Thanks, Michael. So, I just wanted to give you this picture here to really kind of show you the benefits of rural broadband, and that this a project like this has dual benefits. But there's challenges. In 2019, the FCC reported that over 26% of American families in rural areas lack access to 25/3 speed. That's 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload speeds. I think those of us that live in these rural areas may argue that percentage is much higher. You heard the congressman mention that we're looking at new ways to evaluate these FCC maps, but we know that these FCC maps are quite inaccurate. They're based on census blocks, and if one person within a census block has 25/3 speed, then that census block is defined as served. Grayson County, Virginia is a great example of this reporting challenge. Based on the FCC maps, Grayson County doesn't even qualify for the Rural Opportunities Development Funds. So I think that's a great example of the challenges that we have in these maps. So the approach that we have, we think, is going to be a unique approach that'll be a catalyst to solving the digital divide. Our approach has multiple benefits to the customers. In addition to the benefits of getting high-speed internet, it also creates the benefits of a more smart grid, a smarter grid that will positively affect customers' experience, reliability, and resiliency for our electricity customers. The blue columns on the left highlight the benefits that customers get from the high-speed broadband internet. You already heard the congressman talk about a lot of those things, but making sure public safety areas are served, making sure that we have fiber infrastructure to economic development sites or industrial sites so that we can attract industry, and then, of course, telehealth. On the right side, you see the green columns. That kind of highlights the benefits of a smarter grid. Right now, if we're deploying smart meters or smart circuits, those are being communicated to through either RF, radio frequency, or through cell service. And those services are through a third party. And of course, if you're in a very rural area, we may not have the ability to even communicate with the device due to the rural nature of the challenges in communications, and that presents challenges in and of itself. If you're in a more populated area, you may have traffic issues on those. And so by having this fiber backbone out there, we're able to communicate to these devices and then drastically improve reliability and resiliency for our customers. Mike, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things that Grayson's going to see from that improvement that they're going to see in high-speed broadband access?
Sure. One thing that Grayson did, they actually performed a study and to find out exactly how unserved they were, just because these maps were so wrong. And a big part of that was the citizen survey. They got a huge response from it. I think it was close to 900 and some odd responses, which was a good percentage of the county. The interesting numbers come out of that is that, when it comes to public safety facilities like fire departments and fire stations, things like that, over 50% of the county were unserved or have speeds under 10 megs, which is not good. Another stat that came from those surveys and the maps is that 54% of the residents and 52% of businesses in Grayson have no broadband greater than 10 meg. So obviously a very unconnected county that needs help. The other wonderful benefit of having a fiber optic solution is it pretty much future-proofs them. This network that's being built will be utilized for decades, all with minimal repair costs and things like that. So it's something that will be used, kind of like the phone system was back in the early 1900s. It's going to carry on for years and years. And the other thing is, when it comes to connecting to the internet, all roads lead to fiber. No matter how you're connected, whether it be on a cell phone, fixed wireless, what have you, it eventually is going to get back to a fiber circuit. And having that fiber built closer to the customer in Grayson, even if they're not directly on that fiber, but on the fixed wireless part of it, they will see a better performing network and be able to get faster speeds and handle more customers and things like that.
Or if you go to the next slide, the image here on this slide really illustrates why we believe that the project we're trying to do will allow us to build the middle mile faster and more economically or than other providers. And the reason is, if you look at that image, we're going to hang that fiber in the power supply space just below the neutral. And from a power company standpoint, we wouldn't allow any other third party that wasn't a certified contractor for us or one of our trained employees to hang in that space. The communications providers hang in the communications space. And so for this middle mile project, we're going to hang that fiber in the power supply space. And what that does is it allows the communication company not to have to deal with the make-ready process, which can be very slow, very cumbersome, and very expensive. Because if, say, GigaBeam wanted to hang fiber, we may have to go out and move things in that space because there's not enough room in the communication space, so we'll have to wait on all those third parties to come in and move their equipment so that GigaBeam could hang their fiber. And that really slows the pace down significantly. So by hanging it in the power supply space, we believe that we can speed this process up significantly. The design of the fiber network is being done in collaboration with our ISP, which is GigaBeam in this case, so that the network is located to mutually benefit both of us in the process, so it better serves our customers and theirs. We'll build a point of presence building for the network aggregation, and GigaBeam will own their own electronics, and they'll be lighting their own fibers that they lease from us. Mike, you want to add a few things there?
Yes, that's pretty much exactly how it will work. You consider Appalachian Power basically to be like a middle mile fiber provider, giving us access to dark fiber that we like. We maintain all electronics, support the customers, provide the connectivity back to the internet through a data center, all those type things, which is a good blend in the collaboration we're doing. It just we both fit together really well.
Exactly. Thanks, Mike. Go to the next slide, if you would. On this slide, I just wanted to give our audience kind of a background of how we got where we were. You heard a little bit of that from Congressman Griffith just a moment ago. But leading up to 2018, we had begun the idea of how could we as an investor-owned utility get involved in solving this digital divide. And we did that because if we can help our communities to grow, that of course allows us to grow. And a growing utility is important for all of the communities that we serve. And so we began talking to key stakeholders, including the governor's office, the Tobacco Commission, our local, state, and federal legislators like Congressman Griffith, talking about how we could play in that space to help solve this decades-long challenge. So during the 2018 legislative session, the passage of Senate Bill 966, which is the Virginia Grid Transformation and Securities Act of 2018, allowed us to start on a path toward building the pilot project we're talking about today. The legislation contained a provision that required investor-owned utilities to perform a feasibility study to determine our company's ability to participate in the rural broadband solution. APCO conducted that study throughout 2018, and we submitted our final recommendations to the Virginia legislature in December of 2018. The study concluded that we were uniquely positioned to deploy middle mile fiber, but we also made it very clear that we had no desire to be an internet service provider. And really the reason for that is it's not our core competency. That's not what we do. Mike, why don't you talk a little bit about what was going on as we were doing that feasibility study?
Yes. One of the first things that happened for us, and it's something I've been working on for our company in the past several years, is creating partnerships with localities in the region. Mainly knowing that this was a problem that needed to be solved, for every county in the area. So we've worked on that a lot with Grayson. They actually sent out an RFP in 2018 for a partner to work on solving the broadband problem there. we applied to that RFP and were awarded that in early 2019. Um, this was before any of this had been decided, and that Appalachian Power decided to pick Grayson for this pilot. So initially, we were looking at a full fixed wireless approach to solve their broadband problems, mainly because of funding. It just it would take a massive amount of public funds to make a fiber network work in a rural area like this for just the numbers to work out. So we were looking at a 5-phase approach to build fixed wireless in that county. It would take several years to complete and get it all going. In the middle of all that, Appalachian decided to pick Grayson for this pilot, which changed everything. And at that point, we started focus on redesigning based on having this fiber backbone that covers approximately 70% of the unserved residents in the county, with the other 30% being on the hybrid of a fixed wireless network coming off of this fiber.
Thanks, Mike. So we didn't know that was going on at APCO, and we were pushing forward with the project, not realizing what GigaBeam was doing with Grayson County. And then during the 2019 legislative session, Delegate Israel Quinn, who lives in Washington County, sponsored a bill that allowed us to petition the Virginia State Corporation Commission for a broadband project like this. And so we developed a team at Appalachian Power to develop this. We were looking at demographics, we were looking at topography, amount of unserved customers, and we looked for a region that had already begun to lay the groundwork on how they would solve this. And that's when we found what was going on with Grayson and GigaBeam, which just really married up with what we were looking for. And then in May of 2019, Governor Northam signed that bill into law, and we actually did it right there in the courthouse in Grayson County. Then in 2019 in July, we actually filed a petition with the SEC, and we had a hearing in January of 2020. And then on March 6th of this year, we actually received an order from the commission allowing us to build the Grayson County project. And that may seem like a long time for some people, but to really go from not having the legal ability to do anything like this as an investor-owned utility to then getting a case submitted, having a hearing, and getting an order to move forward in that period of time, I think is just really a testament to the teamwork that has occurred here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So between July of 2019 and March of 20, we had a lot of things go on. And I just want to point out that Mike and his team at GigaBeam has just gone above and beyond. Mike was a witness in our case with the SEC. He testified on behalf of the case. And so finding a partner like that is just key to the success of something like this. Go to the next slide, if you would. So just quickly here, we'll go over just kind of an overview of what this project looks like. You saw a map there earlier that GigaBeam showed us, but this map on the left here depicts Grayson County, and the blue lines that you see on the map represent the middle mile fiber that Appalachian Power is proposing to build in this project. Grayson County sits just on the northern border of North Carolina, several miles east of Interstate 77. And as the Congressman mentioned, the terrain in this county is very difficult. Our thought was that if we could build it here, we could build it anywhere. And it would be a great example for how we, as this industry, could impact the digital divide. We're going to be building 200 miles of fiber at a cost of approximately $17 million. That cost, of course, will be recovered from our Virginia customers, but any and all leasing dollars that we get from leasing to GigaBeam or others that may need dark fiber, we would return all that revenue back to the cost of the customer, offsetting that cost to the customer. The green shaded areas that you see there represents the areas of Grayson County. And that just represents those customers that have 10 megabits or less download speed. Now, what's interesting here is that the law in Virginia defines unserved as those that have 10.1 or less speeds. and the FCC defines that as 25.3. So that gray area that you see only represents those customers that are 10.1 or less. If we added 25.3 or less, you would see that green shaded area grow quite a bit. So according to the FCC data, there's only about 3,700 meters or metered customers in Grayson County that are unserved, and we have 11,000 customers that we will go by with this fiber route. So the work that Mike referred to there a moment ago that Grayson County did with their consultant to really go beyond the FCC data was very important for them to be able to get a hold of those state dollars for broadband. And still, even in the situation we are, Grayson County doesn't qualify for the Rural Opportunities Development funds for broadband. So thanks to the work of the team and our friends in the legislature, this project is going to bring gigabit service to these customers in Grayson County. Mike, anything you want to add to that?
That's pretty much everything there. Like I said, we've talked about some of the statistics earlier. In that green area, like I said, it's 54% of the residents and 52% of businesses have 10 meg or less or no service. And a lot of that, if you've ever been to Grayson, there's not even cell service. It's hit and miss depending on where you're at. It's very rural and in dire need of getting connected. Grayson is probably one of the least connected counties in Southwest Virginia. There's others that are as bad, but this one is one of the top ones. And honestly, without the collaboration and partnerships we've created, this never would have happened. And it's just a game changer for that county.
Thanks, Mike. Let's go to the next slide. Just want to very briefly show you that we are looking to do this in other areas of our territory. So this is a project that we are working on right now in West Virginia. This is a 2-county project for Logan and Mingos counties, which is just north of the Kentucky border. And we would deploy 400 miles of fiber here and go by 34,000 meters with a significant portion of these customers unserved. But we do have favorable legislation that's going to allow us to do this. It goes into effect on June 1st. And we're going to be submitting a case to the West Virginia Public Service Commission in the fall. And we're looking for an RFP. We've got an RFP out there right now looking for our internet service partner for this project, with the deadline to submit to that project is June 30. Let's go to the next slide. Finishing up here, I thought it was very important that we provide some lessons learned for our audience today about what we've seen and what we're learning in the multiple jurisdictions that we're working in to try to move this forward. First, I think it's very important that you have a well thought out business model. You got to develop a strong team. You got to be transparent with that team. And most of all, you've got to be very persistent, because you're going to run into roadblocks. It's going to be very difficult because, like in Virginia, legally, we couldn't even do that as a company until we got the law changed. So that's very important. Secondly, each area is unique, so make sure you understand the area. You got to review the FCC maps, find a way to look beyond those maps. Are grant dollars available in that area is very important. Will you have an ISP that's willing to work in the area? Make sure you understand your demographics and the population densities, and then really understand the needs of the community. Do they have healthcare services? Is telemedicine important? Is there an industrial park that needs this service? You really need to understand those things. Third, I would say, identify communities that are working to prepare themselves. You've heard Mike and I talk about that today, that Grayson was doing their homework. They were working to be ready for an opportunity. And we've tried to work in some areas that have not done that legwork, and it's very difficult if they have not. So finding a community or a region or a county that's done that is very important. Mike, you want to talk about those 2 points and the business case point?
Yes, he basically hit the nail on the head there. Having the locality prepared for this is very important, just because of the speed and scale of deployment. Being able to have this project shovel ready in a year is an amazing feat. and it would never have happened without collaborating with Grayson County and all the planning they did beforehand. With their consultants, things we did for them, everything. Um, the business case falls into all of this, really in rural areas in general. The numbers have to work even in a partnership this way with public funding and everything else. It's so rural. You have to know who you're dealing with, how many customers there are, and to make it viable, make it a long-term solution for the county for decades to come.
Thanks, Mike. Let's go to the next slide, and this will be our last slide. One last thing I wanted to point out on lessons learned, and we decided to call it the collaborative model. I mean, it is key. If you don't have the right partners at the table, this thing is done before it gets off the ground. You've got to design that middle mile with the last mile in mind. And if you don't have the right ISP, you are in trouble, because it's got to be about more than the money to the ISP. If it's just about the money, I don't think they're going to finish this, because it's too hard. And I think Mike would share in that sentiment. But without support from your local, state, and federal officials, the project is over before it begins. And I just want to leave you with this. What a team we have. We've got GigaBeam, who is ready and willing to do whatever it takes, testify whatever it took to get this project off the ground. Our county administrator there in Grayson, Bill Shepley, man with a heart of gold, willing to do whatever it takes to help his county in this regard. A consultant that went above and beyond to help the county. Congressman Griffith, you can't say enough about him, a champion for the cause, who has been with us from the beginning on this. Delegate Israel O'Quinn, who was willing to sponsor a very controversial piece of legislation to do what's right for the people of Southwest Virginia, and he stays connected with us constantly to make sure this project is moving forward. Governor Northam and his administration, a champion to find solutions for the digital divide. The Tobacco Commission focused on providing funds and creating solutions. And I can't say enough about my team at Appalachian Power, who has tirelessly worked for almost 2 years to find a way to get something like this off the ground. And because of all of that work in the team, we are now in the planning and engineering phase of this, with that scheduled to be done and construction to start in December. And the good news there is that Mike and his team are going to work in parallel with our team. And so it will be a 12 to 18 month construction. But as we complete sections, Mike is going to be doing the same thing with GigaBeam. And so customers will be able to come on board as we complete sections of the project. So can't say enough about what we've done here. Mike, any last comments?
You covered it all very well there. Like I said, we've planned this to go fast, and it's been a wonderful experience. Like I said, every partner in this has gone to bat and has just done a phenomenal job to make this happen. And it couldn't have happened without us all working together. That's, to me, the most important part of everything we've done.
That's right, Mike. And I think that picture on the screen there shows it all. You've got the governor, you've got the president of our company, Delegate O'Quinn, Mike's smiling face there right behind the governor, and just a great day that happened right there in Grayson County to sign that bill into law. So, Rob, that finishes up for us.
Well, thank you, Brad, and thank you, Michael, for that tremendous presentation. The questions are pouring in. We'll get to them after we hear from our next set of panelists. But again, just want to remind folks to please use the chat function. We'll get to your questions. And running up today's discussion, we have Lane Chambers from Prince George Electric Cooperative and Nathan Frost from Dominion Energy, Virginia. They've taken a different route here, and please turn over the floor to Nate and Lane.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you, everyone. Congressman Griffith, thank you for your opening remarks, as well as your continued support with this initiative. And thank you to the UTC team for facilitating this webinar. Getting started, we can go to the next slide. I took the approach today, I really wanted to tell a story, learning from history. I believe history is one of the most important learning tools one can utilize. With that being said, I'm going to cover the brief history of Prince George Electric Cooperative, the birth of Prince George Electric Cooperative Enterprises, LLC, and the evolution of rural band. In the fall of 2016, we began deploying a fiber optic network with the intent, just like most, to gain downline communications on the electric grid at a more granular level. From this initiative came the concept of serving underserved rural homes as an ISP, and the birth of a pilot project referred to as the West Quaker Road Pilot Project. At this time, a group of electrical engineers, linemen, along with the vision of a bright young engineer coupled with a lot of support from our upper management team, embarked on a mission of uncertainty. As the boots on the ground were beginning to endure through the fog of war, preparing for the first in-home hookup as an ISP, little did they, or should I say we, know the impact we would have on our slice of rural America. With every install of Wi-Fi, as our members would refer to it, I began to witness firsthand the life-changing impact this service would or could have on all of rural America. Unbeknown to many, this was the beginning of a cooperative effort, and partnerships were beginning to form. Next slide. A vital part of rural band's success begins with this first partnership, one of a unique kind, as a partnership developed with Prince George County here in southeastern Virginia. This partnership led to the connection of over 500 rural homes, bringing those homes up to standards some of their neighbors less than a half of a mile away had enjoyed for many years. Rural Band has since this initial partnership joined hands with leaders at all levels, working together to ensure broadband equality throughout the surrounding communities. Fast forward through the ups and downs, and you'll find us where we stand today, entering yet again into an additional partnership. This specific partnership is with rural Surry County, and it would prove to be more difficult as the locality in which we were partnering with had very little broadband availability to the citizens and covered 2 electric utilities service territory. To this point, rural band had minimal deployment on facilities on other utilities infrastructure. This project had the potential to be the most difficult and challenging to date. As plans were being laid and work was starting on the Surry County project, a call came in to rural band of quite an intriguing nature. Dominion Energy was inquiring about opportunities to partner with rural band, aiding and serving those underserved in rural Surry County. I have to admit, I found this to be potentially one of the most unique bonds that we could forge to date. Next slide, please. As conversations began between the 2 entities, it was clear that Dominion Energy intended to deploy a fiber optic network in which it would potentially have excess dark fibers available. It only took a couple conversations, though, sitting down with Dominion Energy's team to understand their idea of a partnership was much more than just leasing dark fiber capacity to serve their service territory. Dominion Energy was dedicated to this partnership and making this partnership one in which would flow very smoothly for the common goal of serving those who had been left behind for quite some time. Partnership has opened many doors that would have been much harder to access had the 2 entities not shared a common goal. Some of the benefits from that, this partnership has led to an open flow of communication between Dominion Energy and rural band, the coordination of logistics, as far as the planning goes and building out, and also a direct channel to the various departments for both organizations. That open line of communication is tremendous to have. One of the challenges that rural band had seen in previous deployments was curbing the expectations of the citizens in the areas which it would serve. A project of this nature takes time, and today more than ever, a timely deployment of a fiber optic network and these underserved areas is of the essence. We've seen in the past few weeks, working through the current pandemic, that life can change in a split second. It truly can. united, we have a very unique opportunity in working with Dominion Energy. Next slide, please. Here you see Lighting Rural America, the slide up here, and this slide really hits home to me because I have been intricately involved in various aspects of the deployment of rural broadband to homes. And in closing my piece of this presentation, which I would really like to share, that this effort in lighting rural America with broadband really shares a striking resemblance to me of the first lighting of rural America through the Rural Electrification Act of 1936. This was a time of need in which America came together through cooperative effort through partnerships, working with legislators and innovative minds to provide the rural areas with a tool to broaden opportunity and equality. I see today as an opportunity to learn from these successes of this initiative back then and learn from history. We have today entered yet another crossroads, and through partnerships formed and common goals shared, place ourselves in a fine position to yet again light rural America. Next.
Thanks, Wayne. Again, this is Nathan Frost with Dominion Energy Virginia. Give you a little bit of background about who we are and kind of what our rural broadband journey has been like. You'll hear a lot of the same themes that you heard from Appalachian Power. It's really a lot of those same fundamental pieces of legislation that really created this opportunity. But for some context, Dominion Energy Virginia, we're based out of Richmond. We serve about 2.6 million customers in Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. We are a regulated integrated distribution, transmission, and generation company. We have it's approximately 23 billion in rate base. And on the right-hand side, you see a map of our distribution service territory. The dark blue areas represent the areas we serve. And you can see that it's broad and diverse. We serve everything from the oceanfront Virginia Beach to the Allegheny Mountains on the border of West Virginia. We serve major metropolitan areas of Northern Virginia, which are really just the suburbs of DC, Central Virginia, and then down east, the Tidewater area. But what you can see as you look at the map is that we also serve a lot of rural areas. And a lot of those are adjacent to cooperative territories. The area that we're talking about today is the one that's in that red circle. That's Surry County. And it's hard to see, but there's really a river that kind of runs north of Surry County that separates Surry County from the Williamsburg area of Virginia. Next slide. And this is kind of an overview again of like I said, our journey. It's really similar to what Appalachian Power walked you through. The fundamental pieces of it really were the 2018 Grid Transformation and Security Act. Again, that was an extremely comprehensive piece of legislation and really laid out the framework for modernizing the distribution grid for the IOUs in Virginia. And importantly, it really gave us the framework we needed to build out our telecommunications infrastructure. That broadband feasibility study was one that it was really just an enactment clause in there that really required the IOUs to look at can we serve and how do we serve potentially as a middle mile provider in the state. Just like APCO, we filed in late 2018. And then shortly thereafter, there was the 2019 legislation. We call it HB 2691. That's the one that you heard about from Delegate Quinn. And again, can't underscore just how foundational that is for this effort. Really, the effort on behalf of our policymakers in Virginia are really the ones that deserve a lot of the credit here. They've kind of really opened a lot of doors that maybe we otherwise would not have even been aware of. But at the end of the day, it's that piece of pilot legislation that really that makes all of this go. It's really the oxygen in this initiative. A little bit of a different approach that we took last year is that we issued a RFI in the summer last year. We really wanted to just cast as wide a net as possible. So as part of that RFI, we wanted to solicit interest from both localities and ISPs. We wanted to hear from any and all, especially the localities. We wanted to hear, what are your thoughts on broadband that's being served in your communities? Have you done any work to understand what that served, unserved population looks like? And then we wanted to hear from the ISPs about who would be our potential partners going forward. So it was a really good opportunity for us to inform ourselves about just the broadband networks within Virginia. And from that, since last summer, we've been doing a lot of diligence and working through a lot of the feedback that we had there, but developing projects and partnerships like the one we're talking about today with Prince George Electric Co-op and their subsidiary Rural Band. We are building towards a regulatory filing later this year. So that's something that we're working on diligently right now. As you heard from Brad at APCO and Gigabeam, you can tell it really takes a village, not just to put a project together, but also to bring forward a regulatory filing for consideration by our commission. So that's what, in addition to doing all the hard work of collaborating with Prince George to understand where we're going, it's also about building towards building a really good case that we feel like it can get approved by our commission. Next slide. And here's a brief overview of the area that we're talking about. Again, it's still very much under development, and we still need regulatory approval of this, but this is a look at what we envision right now. The fiber deployment that we see as part of our middle mile solution is about 42 miles along our distribution lines. That's represented by the dark blue lines that you see kind of going, almost creates like a cross through the county. And that's kind of where we're focused right now, is on working through, getting through the scoping and design and working diligently with Lane's team to understand kind of what, where do they need us, how do they need us, and making sure that, what we're deploying here also serves very much a benefit for our operations and our customers. So what you see developing here as you look at something like this on the map is we're meeting a lot of different needs, both from Lane's perspective of being able to enable broadband deployment, for the citizens of Surrey County, but also it's a win-win in that, it can give us visibility, better visibility into our operations within that area. And just like you heard from the folks before, really when it comes down to rural broadband, it requires a ton of collaboration and commitment from all parties to really look for solutions. That's at the local, state, federal level, both with cooperatives and electric IOUs. I mean, it's really all of the above. And hats off again to my team. This is something that, it's funny when you think back, 2018 wasn't long ago, and when you think about how far we've come this quickly, it's really, I think, a testament to the hard work from the folks within Dominion and also with Rural Band. So I know we've got a ton of questions, and obviously there's a lot of same sentiments between us and APCO, but again, just want to underscore the admiration that we have for Rural Band and helping us bring this forward. It's been a great collaboration and partnership, and we're really looking forward to bringing it to fruition.